getting their US visas. Bridgette M. Bennett. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Kashima. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the invitation to be here.
I know. Look, it's so crazy. Like I didn't even realize the magnitude of the work that you're doing until Bounty Killer posted you, and then I went on a deep dive, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's following me on Instagram, and that's when I started, to dig a little deeper into your story. So I'm really happy to have you on today.
Thank you. I didn't know you're following me on Instagram and doing deep dive. That's so cool.
I know, absolutely. So let's begin with your foundation, though, Bridgette, because how would you describe your childhood growing up in Kingston, Jamaica?
I love my childhood in Kingston, Jamaica. I was there until in the fourth grade. So I grew up off of Waltham Park Road, Kingston 11, and I went to St. Jude's Primary. And I had a great childhood. My mom, my dad, big family, everybody live in the yard, and it was nice.
How would you describe your parents? Like when you reflect, what would you say you can take you took away from each?
Oh, my father was a giver, very generous man. In fact, he was known as like Santa Claus because every Christmas he would send so many barrels and everybody would get something. Who would get corned beef, who would get soap, who would get oil. And he's a very generous man, very hardworking, and a really lovely person that passed away a few years ago. My mom is the wind beneath my wings. She's so supportive, overprotective, even to this day. And she is just an amazing woman of faith, woman of love, a giver. So I had really great parents. So I'm very grateful for that.
But at the age of 9, I read that you migrated to New York. First of all, did you understand like what that transition was? And I'm sure it probably shocked your system, just even with the temperature, just the vast changes. But reflecting, what was that experience like for you?
Wow, it was quite an experience. I've always been a dreamer, even as a kid, and I knew I wanted to go to America. I knew that very early. And so coming, it was amazing. I have to tell you a little backstory so it makes sense. So when I was in third grade, in those times, they would have trips going to Disney World. So I wanted to go to Disney World. That's every kid's dream, right? And so I went home and I said, Mommy, them are going to Disney World and I want to go. My friends are going to go. And you know what the lady told me? She said, no. And so I got very upset and angry. And I walked around the yard, the neighborhood, and I got a paper and I got people to sign off to say Bridgette's a good girl and we think she should
No way.
she should be allowed to go to America to go to Disney World. Because I was a good kid, And I was feeling good that, now I have the whole neighborhood saying, Mommy, all right, give her like a chance, let her go. And she still said no. So at a very young age, I learned 3 things. Number 1, that life was not always fair. Number 2, that even when things aren't fair, you can always do something about it. And number 3, even if the circumstances don't change, you change, because that's something that I've taken with me from age 8 or whatever I was all the way
amazing.
up until now. Yeah, so it was a foundational moment for me. So I didn't get to go to Disney because at that time I didn't realize my father was actually already in the process of filing for us. So when my friends went to Disney and everything and them come back and them I said, oh
Mm-hmm.
yes. And when we were on the airplane, we were able to open the window and touch the clouds and it felt like, cotton balls. And, I'm so gullible that I
Mm-hmm.
really believed. So for me coming to America, I thought that's what it was going to be like, lots of fun and games and I could do all these things while I'm on the airplane. But when I got to New York, it was the Bronx on February 28th, snowstorm on the ground.
Wow.
And I mean, it was like culture shock on top of culture shock. So the temperature was a thing. And then I was really excited about the snow. So going out there and playing and getting frostbitten, my poor little fingers couldn't even
Mm-hmm.
move. It was so cold. So that was quite an adjustment. And in school, there was such a difference. So
Mm-hmm.
we're cursing at the teachers, misbehaving in the class, and coming from Jamaica in the 80s, where, it's strict. I think in those times, the teachers could still spank kids and stuff. So that was like really a moment of waking up to see a different reality. It didn't come, America did not comport to what
Mm-hmm.
my expectation of it would be in terms of that.
Seeing those things though, Bridgette, what kept you grounded and focused on education?
So my parents and extended family always said education is the key, education is the key. And my experience in the Bronx, New York wasn't the greatest. It was at the time there was a lot of backlog against Jamaicans, drug dealers. They just didn't like us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was at the time when the song where said, anything we're going to foreign at the yard man get the blame.
Get blamed.
It was
Mm-hmm.
that environment. So I didn't really like New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the importance of education, I applied for a scholarship program through a program called A Better Chance. And I was able to go away to school, to high school in Connecticut. So I boarded at age 12,
Wow.
August 1992, I left the Bronx and I went away to school. I was able to come home on holidays and weekends and stuff, but I went to a whole different environment. It was all white people, basically,
Mm-hmm.
which was another culture shock. So coming from being an island girl to having to go through New York City with all the different ethnicities and all of the environment that was happening at that time, and then going into an all white environment, it was kind of another culture shock, but it was quite pleasant. And I had an excellent education at that high school, which led me to go to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so that's where we are now. So, how would you describe that experience at Georgetown University, and also how did that experience help to shape Bridgette Bennett?
Georgetown was great. I was there when Allen Iverson was there, so it
Oh
was like a
wow!
really cool time to be at
Mm-hmm.
Georgetown. And it was a wonderful place because I experienced city life, I experienced country life, and DC is such a mecca of different races, but in a more kind of professional environment. So I felt like, yes, this is home. I really felt at home in DC. And it was great. And that was where I actually met my now former spouse in 1997. So that was my first experience of the reggae visa thing, because he actually came up
Mm-hmm.
on what I now call a reggae visa. So Georgetown didn't have, I love music, like I've always said. And Georgetown really didn't have the kind of party that with me like. So I
Mm-hmm.
would go to Howard University, which is a HSBCU, historically Black college. And I would go to parties there. So I met him during a Stone Love and the homecoming event that year. And the rest is kind of history on that.
All right. So because I said, your journey is so extensive, we're going to jump to that time period. So before law, you had a job in corporate America. You're climbing the corporate ladder. Things are going good for you. But then at the same time, you quit your job to pursue law. What happened and why?
So yes, so as I mentioned, I was dating my partner at that time, and he overstayed the visa like so many other
Mm-hmm.
people who come and they just want an opportunity. Now, the one thing he did was he purchased some papers to work. Since I'm going to stay here, I might as well do that. And that kind of led to a precipitous moment to where the papers just blew up and he was eventually placed in removal proceedings. So
Wow.
I was exposed to immigration very early in our relationship. And so as we, started our family, um, purchased a home, and, I'm climbing the corporate ladder, doing very well. This thing hits where we've invested a lot of time, over $30,000 in legal fees, and that does not
Wow.
include government filing fees, and using three different attorneys over the 10-year time period. It was quite a journey. And so the last thing that changed, the moment that changed everything for me, was that we went to an interview, a marriage based interview, and the attorney was from New York and she flew down to attend the interview. However, during that interview, I realized I'm the one answering the questions and talking to the officer and doing everything. And this little lady just sit on there like
Mm-hmm.
princess, not doing anything. And then the officer says, "Well, we're going to place your husband in deportation proceedings."
Wow.
I, my heart just hit the floor in that moment. Devastation, because we just had a house, had two young children, and just overall, trying to make a life. And now, boom, the most dreaded word in immigration: deportation. And we went outside, and the attorney had the nerve to say, "Well, if you want me to appeal, that's another $12,000." Well, you can
Wow.
imagine my words to her after that. Maybe don't imagine it, but they were
I
not very
already did
pleasant.
it. Mm-hmm.
And based on the legal issues, I spent the next probably 48 hours just not sleeping, just anxious. And I poured that anxiety into doing legal research. And at the end of those 2 days, I said to myself, well, if you're doing all of this, you might as well go to law school. Because that was always kind of in the back of my mind. But the
Mm-hmm.
truth was, I was very comfortable in corporate America. I was doing really well. And I didn't really want to rock the boat, but I guess God had different plans.
Plans, yeah.
And so, yeah, it propelled me into quitting and really pursuing law school full time for 3 years.
So here it is. Did you even have time to process like what you're doing? Because you left your job in corporate, like you mentioned, you were doing well and you're going to law school now. You have two young children. What was that process like, and how were you able to deal with some of the challenges that were coming at you during that difficult time? I would imagine.
It was a really difficult time. It was kind of like the best of times and the worst of times, because it was the
Mm-hmm.
first time in my life that I didn't work. I didn't have like three different jobs going on at the same time. And I was really able to focus. But, at the time with the immigration situation, I was the primary breadwinner, and that caused a lot of financial troubles for us. Because I no longer had that income, and you have kids. But
Mm-hmm.
my partner at the time, very supportive, he took care of the kids. We really had a partnership to balance things out at that time. And so I do credit him with a lot of support,
Mm-hmm.
just on the ground, along with my really good friends, my mom, my family members, very supportive. But I have to tell you, it was tough. There were days where my school was an hour away from my house. There were days I didn't have gas money. I didn't have toll money. So I remember sometimes I would be driving up to the toll, and in America, you have like tolls where you throw money into the buckets. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell you, God is so good, because sometimes when I didn't have the money, I would open my door and find the money on the ground just enough to get through the tolls, just to get to
Wow.
school. right? We had lights cut off, water cut off, everything you can think of cut off. Like there was a time I always remember trying to get into the garage at the house, and the
Mm-hmm.
garage door wouldn't go up. You know why? Because the light cut off. So I had to tell the kids,
Oh
oh my
gosh.
gosh, it looks like the garage door is broken. We're going to have to get someone to
Mm-mm.
fix, knowing good and well that the light cut off. So, I mean, when I
Wow.
tell you that it was a challenging, we lost our home, we lost our investment property, we lost vehicles, we were down to one vehicle. And even when I graduated law school and was opening my office, we were down to one Mercedes
Mm-hmm.
and we were behind on the payments. And I was doing it, was probably the first month I was open. And the way that it was set up, like there was a window behind me and you could see into the parking lot. So I'm having a consultation with this client, potential
Mm-hmm.
client,
Mm-hmm.
and my car was being repossessed in front
Oh
of them while
wow.
doing the consultation. So, just a crazy, crazy time. So it's not an easy road. And people think that, oh, look at Bridgette, look at the things she's doing
Yeah,
in her
big
life.
liar.
They don't know where
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming from. They don't know
Wow.
where I'm coming
But
from.
you know what I want to ask you though, in those difficult and challenging moments, have you ever like questioned why you left your job? Why you go do this? Why you put, did you ever blame your partner at the time? I mean, did you ever had any of those moments, and how were you able to even deal? Because we know when life, and things happen and you're being pushed up against the wall. Have you ever had those moments where you look and say, boy, if me never do this?
I had one moment.
Mm-hmm.
One, I went on my back porch and I was very angry with God. So, bottom line is my faith, my church community. This
Mm-hmm.
is when I learned how to pray, how to fast, how to get into the word. So that
Mm-hmm.
was my best spiritually grounded time. But that one moment I was angry with God and I went on the back porch. Did you ever watch the movie Color Purple?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yes.
remember the scene where Oprah Winfrey comes out of the bushes and she's mad and she's like,
And she
all my
put.
life I've had to fight. And she goes off into this tirade. So I had an
Mm-hmm.
Oprah moment. I was on my back porch. I was crying and I was screaming out to God. And I said, why do I have to fight for this? I have to fight to do this. I have to fight to go to school. I have to fight for my kids. I have to fight for my marriage. I have to fight for everything. Why do I always have to fight? Why? And I
Mm-hmm.
just heard this little voice say, you have to fight because I made you to be a warrior. And that's what warriors do. They fight. I'm
Mm.
just shut my mouth from then. And I just continued walking by faith.
Wow. On that note, stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. We have a quick time signal.
Spark Jamaica will enhance roads, water systems, and telecoms connectivity. Spark the next chapter and build a brighter future with us. The Time by Spark, a program of the Government of Jamaica, is...
It is now 12:48. If you're just joining us, we are on the road to success and we're journeying with attorney at law. We're talking about Bridgette Bennett. So here it is now, 2011, like you mentioned, you started your law firm, Bennett Law Center. And, you did say you had your challenges and struggles. Can you remember the very first big case that you got that put things into perspective to say, yeah, Bridgette, it's our work?
Yeah, man. So I'm a litigator. When I was a kid, they used to call me parrot because I chat too much. But I love court. So that's where my heart lies in terms of just getting out there and doing the work. And so getting out of law school and opening up the practice, I took on this one case that was handled by a prior attorney. And I represented the guy pretty immediately, probably within 2 months or so of practicing, and we won the case. So I will always remember that family. And I'm telling you, that one family referred me so many cases from that one experience. So that is definitely one of those moments that I remember on the journey, and, building up my stamina to go forward and to say, yes, this is possible, because I was a little nervous, to tell you the truth. I didn't want to open my own office initially. I wanted to go work for someone, get experience, the normal course of action for any logical person. But God had different plans. I applied for so many jobs. I couldn't get any jobs as an attorney. I even applied for jobs as paralegal, and I couldn't because we were still at the tail end of the recession. So the job situation wasn't there. So I started saying, you know what, I might have to just open up my own office. And 3 people told me about my office space now, and I've been here ever since. So, we're a little bit crazy to go out on my own right away, but that's what I did.
Did you eventually get to work on your ex-husband's case?
No, I did not. We found an amazing attorney locally here in Orlando, and he was just an incredible person. He gave us the encouragement we need. And he said, we have less than 1% chance of winning this case, but the government attorney is going to get paid whether you fight it or not. And I don't know why, but that moved my ex's heart. And he's like, all right, let's do it. Because we were disappointed by the previous attorneys. So we weren't sure what to expect, but he did a wonderful job. And that's Attorney Wayne Golding Sr. from Orlando. So he always holds a special place in my heart. And this was while I was in law school. He had his final hearing.
Wow. And the outcome was good?
Yes, we won the case. We won the case. And it wasn't easy, I remember specifically the judge who, every time my attorney would say something, he would shoot everything down. And I'm in the back of the court, and my ex always say, I looked up on the stand and I saw you in the back bawling. And I was just in there bawling because I knew it wasn't going good. I was like, oh God, it was not going good. And then he says the words. He said, he looked up in the sky, in the ceiling, and said, God, show that judge you two of your doves, or something like that. And from there, he said the environment changed, and the prosecutor ended up dropping the charge. And with him dropping the charge, we were able to apply for a waiver, a hardship waiver, showing how I would suffer and the kids would suffer if he was removed from the country. And we did win that case. So that was amazing. Quite a journey. Yeah.
All right. So I want you to speak a little bit now to your passion for music and your profession, and which ultimately gave us the birth of the Reggae Visa Lawyer. So let's talk about that.
So I just love music. Even as a young person, as a teenager, I was just drawn to all kinds of music. And I feel like music got me through my teen years. Because, during teenage years, you have big emotions and big feelings. And that was back in the days where you had your little CD pouches. So I had, all kinds of CDs, and I knew the words by heart. And it was music transformed my life. And I really love dancehall. So while I was in college, I even studied gender, sexuality, and music as a part of my English major. And that's where I really did work on women in the dancehall space, because that's traditionally a very male-dominated world. So Lady Saw, always my favorite. Minister Marion Hall, I love her dearly, and we're very good friends. But while I was in college, I was part of the Fling It Up crew, maybe even the leader of the Fling It Up crew.
What?
Because we love to fling it up on the left,
Yeah.
But I really liked her a lot because I thought she represented women. She said she was our voice. She said a lot of things that we were afraid to say or ashamed to say. And so for me as a young woman, it just helped me to have a space of power within my femininity, within my sexuality. So I thought that a woman like her was amazing. So she was my idol. So come down years when my now former spouse is producing and making music with her and all that stuff and meeting her and spending a lot of time with her, it was like a dream come true. And very early on, she was one of those people who gave me the confidence to say, yes, I can work on these types of cases. And so she was very integral in my journey to becoming the reggae visa lawyer. But apart from that, I just kind of focused on deportation defense, family-based cases, and doing one or two reggae visa cases until now.
And now we see where the brand, the Reggae Visa Lawyer, like it has gained a lot of attention. Did you initially, when you decided to go by Reggae Visa Lawyer, did you ever think that it would get the traction that it did? Did you foresee working with like two of dancehall's biggest giants? We're talking about Bounty Killer and Beanie Man.
I never ever dreamed that it would come to this. And the way that it came up was actually kind of funny. I have a very good friend of mine. She's a Russian attorney locally in the Orlando area as well. And she's known as the sports visa lawyer. So she actually represents quite a lot of Jamaican athletes. And she specializes in track. She actually went to school with Justin, who, has this big thing with Bolt and all this stuff, Justin Gatlin. And so she loves oxtail. She loved Jamaican food. So one day I said, why don't you come over and I'll make you some oxtail? So she's like, all right. And I'll make you some, drinks. So I was like, okay, that's a fair exchange. So we're sitting in the hot tub and just hanging out and talking. And I'm telling her how much I love working on this. At that time, I was doing sound systems as my reggae visas, but I didn't have the concept of reggae visas. So she's like, we're talking and I'm telling her of what I'm doing. And she's like, well, why don't you become the reggae visa lawyer? I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. So I will give my girl Ksenia a shout out for giving me the name.
No, it absolutely works. And, I know you said that you work with sound systems and, you mentioned some of the entertainers that you've worked with as well. But who mainly is your target audience? Like when you say you're the reggae visa lawyer, who are you targeting?
I'm targeting 3 different audiences. So one, I definitely have a love for sound systems. Like I said, that's how my ex got started. That's how I even knew that visa category existed. And most of the time, these sound guys, they just want an opportunity to travel. So I was just joking around that, I take a lot of their visa virginities because I'm the first person to help them to get a visa to travel. And I know how important the US market is. So I get a lot of joy from working with the ordinary person, right? I also, secondly, love working with major entertainers such as Rodney and Moses. Of course, I love doing that. Because, generally they have tough cases, long histories that need to be dissected and so forth. And I love to put the puzzle pieces together and come up with a strategy. So a lot of what I do is putting the pieces of the puzzle together to really understand exactly what's going on so that we can target exactly what's going on. And then thirdly, my audience is Jamaicans. Right now, 85% of my clients don't speak English. They speak Spanish. So I work with a lot of Mexicans.
Stick a point. Hold your point. We have Cashpot coming up and we really have to take this. If not, we may have to just reach out to you for your assistance. But stick and stay. Listen up. Your top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick, and Cashpot lunchtime draws up next.
Oxymaster, make everything cleaner.
The time by Oxymaster, the Stain Blaster is
It is now 12:59. We are standing by. Listen up. Your top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick, and cash spots. Lunchtime draws up next.
Drawing of the Supreme Ventures lottery games. This could be your lucky day. Get your tickets out and let the games begin.
Good afternoon. It is Champs Week. Today is It's Thursday, March 27, 2025. I am Kimberly. Welcome to this afternoon's Supreme Ventures live game draw. Now, before we begin, here's a quick look at our mid-morning winning numbers. All Supreme Ventures live draws are being supervised by the Betting, Gaming and Launches Commission and observed by the independent auditing firm PwC. Now let's put some money in your top draw. This afternoon's jackpot is now $400,000. Here are the winning top draw numbers. First up for top draw is 10. The second number, that's 5. Now for the third top draw number, we have 3. The fourth number making its way is lucky number 7. And the final number for $400,000 is 22. Now let's pick your player with our dollars game. I do hope you're feeling lucky. Here we go. And the first winning dollars number is 9. The second number, 26. Now for the third dollars number, we have 1. The fourth number making its way is lucky number 7. Coming down is 29. Now we're halfway there with number 4. 34 is next. 16 follows. Next is a count down to 15. 19. Next up is a count to 20. And the final dollars number for this afternoon is 33. Now for some easy winnings with our Pick 2 game. Let's play. And the first winning Pick 2 number is 21. The second number, that's 5. So once again, your winning Pick 2 numbers are 21 and 5. Up next, you can play 3 ways. It's our Pick 3 game. First up for Pick 3 is 6. Now for the second number, we have 5. And the third and final number, another 5. Once again, the winning Pick 3 numbers are 6, 5, and 5. Now it is time to turn up your winnings. Get ready for Pick 4. And the first winning Pick 4 number is 0. The second number, that's 4. Now for the third Pick 4 number, we have 7. And the fourth and final number, what will it be? It is the number 9. So once again, your winning Pick 4 numbers are 0, 4, 7, and 9. Now this one easy for win. So let's heat things up with Hot Pick. Now this afternoon's winning Hot Pick number, here we go. It is lucky number 13. Congratulations to all Hot Pick winners. Again, the winning number is 13. Now you live to play it, but can you win it? Get ready to be a big cash pot winner, and let's see what the winning number will be. Now this afternoon's winning cash pot number, here we go, is the number 3, and the lucky mark is dead. Now let's make up those winnings, and of course, good luck to you. And round they go, and what will it be this afternoon as the balls are bubbling? And it is a white ball that has been selected. Now it's time. Monster winning, so good luck once more. Keep those tickets out and let's see. It is the monster ball that has been selected. Now let's take a look at this afternoon's winning numbers. Congratulations to everyone who won. Which school are you representing? Now I'm representing for the Monroe College and the Kingston College. All of the man them, big up on yourself. Join us again at 3 p.m. for more games you love to play. I'm Kimberly. Have a supreme afternoon.
Hope you were a big winner. Play your favorite Supreme Ventures games every day and tune in for our live draw 6 times a day at 8:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8:25 p.m. on this station. Supreme Ventures, making winners every day.
That was the lunchtime top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick, and cash pot draws. Congratulations to all of today's winners. Join us again at 3 p.m. for another chance to win in hot pick and cash pot special pot draws. If you're just joining us, we are on the road to success. Jamaicans and Hispanics.
Yeah, so with the Reggae Visa brand, of course, I want the big, complicated cases. I want the regular people like the soundmen, the band members, and things like that. But thirdly, a wider Jamaican focused audience or Caribbean market. Currently, I represent probably 85% of Latino market. I do speak Spanish fluently. So the
Nice.
Mexicans have a very special place in my heart. So a lot of times they call me, they say, abogada, tú eres ja Mexican. So apparently I'm ja Mexican because them just have a special place in my heart. Very hardworking people and just decent human beings. And I really love to help them. But I also want to focus on helping people that I grew up with, people from where I'm from as well.
You said a lot right there, but something I want to ask you, like people normally assume that entertainers are sometimes hard to work with. What has been your experience so far?
Well, entertainers are definitely a special class of people. I will say that. However, I have over 27 years of experience dealing with an entertainer through marriage. So I know how to work with them very well. And we actually gel because I am a visionary and very focused on my work, and they are also very focused on their work. So I look at it more as a partnership to where what I do will enable them to do what they do. So there's a lot of work around, working with Moses. I have a special love for him. He's a great guy. He's a great guy, somebody you can just sit down and talk to and laugh and chat and, and I really love working with Rodney and Banky as well. They're just great human beings. And fortunately, none of them had the whole tantrum or diva-like behavior that is typically associated with working with entertainers. And to be honest, of all the people I've worked with, there's really only been one that was just extra special.
Okay. I get you. I get that you're being deliberate in kind of keeping the name of your former partner secret. Like you have me wondering, you said, a selector, also a producer. Is it deliberate on your part, like keeping him nameless?
Absolutely. I don't think he could manage this. He does not like the spotlight, so I won't blow up his spots. But I will say he's an old school selector.
Okay. I know you have
but
a mind
into producing at the moment.
Okay. No, I see where Bounty Killer called you, a Wonder Woman for helping him reclaim his US visa. How do you feel to, with the recognition that he gave you and also his fans, tap in as well? What was that like for you?
Boy, that was overwhelming. Like I said, working with Rodney and Banky has been extremely special. I'm extremely appreciative of the love and support and the recognition, that was very, very thoughtful of them. They're very generous people. And it's very nice to be recognized. It's not something that I necessarily want or crave, but receiving it, I'm going to take it, right? And enjoying it. And I'm working personally on myself to enjoying the moment. Like, sharing this story with you is taking me on the journey. So I don't think it's cocky to say I'm enjoying every single moment of what's happening right now. I think I have worked really hard and I deserve it. And I'm very grateful and humbled by the response.
That's amazing. But on the flip side, I'm sure, all your cases don't have a happy ending. How do you convey the negative messages? You will be deported, you are denied. How do you convey those messages and what's that conversation like?
Mm. So before a denial or something happens, it's setting expectations. So from the consultation all the way through the process, not just myself, but also members of my team, we try to set expectations. So if we know there's going to be an issue to pop up, or if we suspect a certain outcome, we tell them from day one so that when it happens, it's not that crushing of a blow. But it's always a difficult conversation to have. It's always a difficult conversation to have. But I also try to give people perspective. So on cases where someone might have to go back home, I try to make sure they understand, well, maybe God has a different purpose for you. Maybe there are people in your home country that you're meant to go and be something to that person to help them through a difficult time. Not everything has to be focused around the United States. We love it. It has great opportunities, but maybe your calling is different. So I try to give them a bigger perspective of life and the things they do have to be grateful for to kind of cushion the blow. But I think the key is managing expectations from day one.
And some people believe that certain dancehall artists are still being blacklisted from entering the US. But from your experience, do you think there is like an unspoken ban on some entertainers?
That's such a great question. I actually don't think so. So, reading about speculations as to why some of the artists are not being getting visas and things of that nature, it's actually not necessarily true. So that's why I do FOIAs, I do FBI reports. I try to get as much background information on a case to truly understand what are the legalities. What am I up against here? I can't just say, well, you're blacklisted. What is on your record? So once I understand what are the grounds of inadmissibility, meaning what are the things that they're seeing is going to prevent you from getting a visa, then I can go from there. So a lot of times, generally in the reggae industry, let's talk about marijuana. Marijuana in immigration, in the federal system, even though it's permitted in many states, in Jamaica, it is still an offense where it will bar you from coming to the US. If there is fraud in your record, if you have certain arrests, if you have overstayed your visa, if you've made false representation on a previous application. So there are a variety of grounds of inadmissibility that make you can't come to the US. So part of our job is to research, figure that out, and create a solution around it. So I don't think they're necessarily out to get people, but maybe prior attorneys just didn't take the time to research and really understand what was the problem in the first place.
In 2023, I saw where you made a post to your Instagram, telling Popcorn to link you. Did he ever reach out?
Still waiting.
No way. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And I know for a fact that the general, Rodney Price, has sent him my personal cell phone number, and Poppy still hasn't linked up. So I don't know.
Wow.
Poppy won't go on. But I do, for me, that is fascinating. So from my understanding, he has never had a visa. So I'm like, why? So just the curiosity. I'm not saying I can work wonders because I have no idea what is the situation, but from a professional perspective, man, he would be the next amazing client to work with. So that's your official invitation, Poppy.
No, absolutely. And speaking about like, your professional advice, I'm not sure if you're aware with what is going on with dancehall DJ Squash. He was arrested, he was held by immigration, and I know his case got a little complex because there is a weapons charge in it as well. All of that has sparked like this ongoing conversation online where persons are wondering, will he be deported? Based on the information that we see hitting news feeds and your professional expertise, what do you make of Squash's situation?
Yeah, so I am very familiar with this situation for a variety of reasons, but he might actually have a chance.
Oh, wow.
From my understanding, he might have a chance. Everything will depend on what happens with these charges. So we're hoping that the charges are dismissed or significantly reduced. So a gun charge makes you deportable, but it doesn't make you inadmissible. So remember I was saying, depending on the ground of inadmissibility, it doesn't automatically make you inadmissible. So based on his familial circumstances, I believe there may be a way. However, if he is convicted of it, it would be an aggravated felony. And for that, there is no relief, unfortunately.
Wow. Okay, well, we'll definitely keep posted to his situation, because I know on April 2, he's expected to go before the court. There will be an arraignment. So from that, I guess, based on the information that you're giving us now, we can, see how things pan out. And like you said, you are familiar with the case. So we'll follow that. But overall, though, Bridgette, how do you feel knowing that your work is making a significant impact, not just for individuals, but for the dancehall industry as a whole?
Boy, Kashima, that is one that I'm still digesting. I just never thought that a little girl from Kingston 11 you're going to make me like tear up, would have that kind of impact. And I am thrilled because I love reggae, I love dancehall, and I want to see it flourish as an industry. And I think the fact that icons such as Beanie Man, Bounty Killer, just legends who are now able to travel, I think that will go such a long way to recapturing our art form, right? This is our thing. And, I felt like in the past, Afrobeats were taking over, or, the Spanish reggae and things of that nature. But I'm really excited to see reggae dancehall reestablish itself in a way that not only solidifies who dancehall reggae belong to, but also to give new and up-and-coming artists the opportunity to experience and build upon the foundation that these legends have created.
Amazing. Now, we see where the Trump administration continues to make changes to the immigration laws. Is it difficult for you personally to maneuver these hurdles or roadblocks, especially when the goalpost just keeps moving?
Yes and no. Yes, the goalpost keeps moving and it is more challenging. However, I would say no, because I know what my mission is. I know what my focus is. So I really don't listen to too much of the news and things on TikTok, because that's just going to make anybody crazy, because it's just too much. And a lot of it is actually misinformation. So I know what I have control over, which is the cases, the people that I'm representing, in addition to the work that I do nationally as the chapter chair for AILA Central Florida, American Immigration Lawyers Association. So I know what I do on that front, and I know what I do for my clients. So when people are calling in distress, and what we're really having problems with is the level of detention That is really what is going crazy and having the most impact right now. So we just respond to the clients very, very calmly and extend our compassion to let them know we understand it's extremely difficult what you're going through. And we walk them through the process of giving us the information we need in order to see how best we can assist. So I just try to keep that world very small because we know his playbook. The first time he was elected, I honestly was an emotional disaster. It was an emotional disaster for me. I even got high blood pressure. Like I was stressed out for 4 years. Now I'm just pissed. I am angry at not doing better. It's embarrassing, actually, the results of the election. But now I know the playbook. I know what he's going to do. He's going to come out swinging. But guess what? There are not enough resources. There are not enough bed spaces to where they don't have enough places to put the people in America. So they're putting them in places like Cuba, reopening Guantanamo Bay, El Salvador, Panama, because there isn't space. So the space is going to run out. And what can you do? So I'm giving it about 6 months for all the bluster to die down and for it to come to some kind of a sustainable level. So I'm not surprised, but I am undaunted because I am here for a reason. And I'm not going to let him make me runway. I will say I did get my kids Jamaican citizenship just in case.
You know, as you mentioned, social media and TikTok, you know, because we see where through TikTok, you have persons saying that you have some immigration lawyers who are a part of the panic because they're using that as a ploy to get more clients. What would you say to persons who have immigration concerns, whether or not they're a part of the entertainment industry?
Yes, you know, it's an ongoing ethical conversation among attorneys right now. And I just personally choose not to feed into that. Even from before, you will never see me repost a news article or record a video about something. You're only going to see my wins. I want to be associated with winning. They can go get the news from somewhere else. And I think it is irresponsible of some attorneys to put out information that can be more harmful to someone that is in a desperate situation. I had a conversation this morning with someone and he's, asking me, so how are you doing? How are you managing under this? And I say, one of the worst things someone could say to me is, well, business must be booming for you. Well, you know what? I don't want to earn money based on people's distress. Where's the joy in that? So people are using it as a means of getting more business, but that's not the kind of business to get. And what I do is I just encourage people, get a professional conversation going. Go with a licensed attorney. You can check places like AILA.org, which is the bar association that manages over 20,000 immigration attorneys across the world. And you can find someone that's an AILA member because generally these are reputable individuals that you can get an honest opinion from.
Now, what trends have you observed in the entertainment immigration landscape, especially concerning like reggae and dancehall genres?
What trends have I noticed? Not much. Maybe I'm really good at what I do, so I haven't had what's called RFEs, request for additional evidence. I will say under the first who administration, I don't give him power by calling the name, but under the first one, I was doing my, my little sound systems, and one case got denied because they say a reggae DJ is basically the same as an American DJ, which is ridiculous. We know selectors and MCs are completely different from how a Jamaican selector would approach a party. So I did see that in those days, but as of now, I have not seen that at all. And in fact, I have to give a shout out to the American Embassy in Kingston. They have been phenomenal to work with. I have been able to have open dialogue, ask questions, make advanced arrangements for my clients. They have truly done wonders in terms of good relationship and, even some courtesies that they were able to extend to Rodney and Moses. So they have been quite good, and I do appreciate that.
What's your vision for your law firm?
Well, right now it's about 20 of us. So we're a pretty big firm. We're a pretty big firm. I would like to grow my law firm to probably 26 people at most. So we're almost topping out to where I would like to be. And I want to build out other niches. So I love the idea of the reggae visa lawyer, but in Florida, there are opportunities to be the equestrian visa lawyer, working with the horse farms, because that's a huge industry here. So I see myself branching out there. We also have a very large humanitarian practice. So if people have been the victims of human trafficking, that is something very dear to my heart. So we represent a lot of people who've been victims, a lot of Jamaicans. This is where people need to get professional advice. So for Jamaicans, if you're part of a program, you come up to work, and by the time you get here, you sign a contract for a certain amount of money, and the employer has certain requirements under the US laws. But when you get there, they take away your book, they cram you in a house with 15 other people, they don't provide certain basic necessities, and you might say you're supposed to get $800 a week. By the time they finish with your pay, you might be down to $100, $200.
Wow.
That is human trafficking. That is human trafficking. So we're looking for a lot of cases like that. And that has been very helpful. So I just want to grow the practice and grow my staff a little bit more.
Speaking about growing your staff, how would you describe your management style?
I am a servant leader and I'm a visionary. So I know my strengths is I can tell you where we're going to be in 5 years. I know exactly what I want the office to look like. My office looks very distinct even in our architecture, in our art, very much. So I'm very, very good at that. I'm good at managing people, but operations wise, I'm not that girl. I'm just not that girl. So it's very important that I have a team of professional, supportive individuals that can help me to make the magic happen. So that's basically how my team operates. I am not a top-down micromanaging boss. I like everyone at the table, and I like to have everyone participate. And if I have to micromanage you, I have to fire you. And I've gotten quite good at that as well.
All right, I love it. And no, as a successful leader, do you think the stereotype of women being emotional leaders is a ploy to undermine our efforts?
It's definitely a ploy. I think it just takes a level of self-awareness, both for men and women. So if you know you're generally an emotional person, you have to learn how to check yourself. I don't think that is necessarily confined to women. What I do think is the biggest fallacy as a woman navigating a professional space is that you can have balance in your life. I don't believe that at all. I think something is going to suffer. And, my kids are now 20 and 22, and I do sometimes feel a way when I wasn't able to go to the games or to the concerts and things of that nature. So and even putting time into my marriage, I acknowledge that if you're very driven and want to go someplace, I don't know if balance truly exists. I do think there's a level of sacrifice that goes in it. And so now I embrace that and try to manage relationships in a different way.
That's an interesting point, because, I know a lot of us try to achieve balance on a daily basis. It's something that you work on, every day. But like you're saying, your children are now in their 20s and you've gotten to a point where something has to give.
Yeah. And what I do is like, I was never the mom to come home and you're going to get your dinner and all this stuff. We ate on the road all the time. My son, who loves to cook, he was making eggs at like 7. Like he had to figure some stuff out for himself, you know? But when we are together, I try to give them that quality time. So even though I wasn't a day-to-day person, like we took a lot of trips. That was our thing. Like they've traveled to over 18, 20 countries, even as young people. And so when I'm with them, I give them my full attention. So it's just, you know, figuring out ways around it. But I definitely don't think I have a balanced life at all.
I love the honesty. But of all your accomplishments, what are you most proud of?
Wow, that's a tough one. I am most proud that I was able, through prayer, through my relationship with God, my support system, my family, my friends, able to take something that was meant to destroy me, with this immigration thing, and turned it into something that I can now pour out and be a blessing to other people. So I love the fact that when trials and tribulations came around, I didn't crumble. I took it as a stepping stone, which now can be a blessing to so many other people. Like, it was important to me to learn the lesson that there is no such thing as giving up. Because if I gave up during the times of the 10 years where we were going through immigration, I would have lost out on all the people that were in my future waiting for me to come through that, go to law school, open my office, and to do it. So imagine if I never stand up strong in a Babylon and really relied on my faith and my family and my friends, where would all these artists be? Where would my clients be? Where would my team be? Now I even have an office where I am supporting 19 different families in the area.
Wow.
So I think when trials come, we cannot crumble. We have to say, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because from that struggle will come your success.
Which is a very fitting note to close on. You know, based on your experience, how would you define success?
I don't define success in numerical terms. I define success as freedom. So for me, being successful means that I have the freedom to create the life that I want. I have the freedom to go into other entrepreneurial areas. I have the freedom to travel. I have the freedom to bless others. I have the freedom to create and live the life that I want. To me, that's success.
Wow, amazing. Bridgette Bennett, thank you so much for taking time out and, you know, taking us on your journey and being so authentic. We truly appreciate it. And I know your family and friends should be absolutely proud of you and your children. You know, you are doing it in a huge way. And thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
All right. Or listeners are coming through and, you know, they're saying, one person said, Rohan Johnson said, could you ask her what inspired her to get into business? I think you would have answered that already, but you can take it.
Necessity. Remember, I wanted that life of comfort in corporate America. Being broke was not very attractive to me. So I was like, I want a real job. And I want to work for somebody, but it just didn't pan out. There were no jobs available at the time. And so that propelled me to go into business.
How important is service to Bridgette?
Oh my gosh, it's my whole life. I live to serve. I characterize my leadership style as servant leadership. I am not better or bigger than anyone. I am a team person. I like to work along and serve along a lot of other people. So I'm on a lot of different boards. I even have my own nonprofit. where we feed for the last 12 years or so, where we feed people in our community once a month for the last 13 years. So service, incredibly important to me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bridgette Bennett, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It may only be another minute.
She's indeed a success story. Absolutely amazing. And so many messages coming through for Bridgette Bennett. This one says, very good interview. I love this. And this person says, I love Bridgette Anderson. I love her. And this other one says, big up to Bridgette Bennett is coming from Ricardo Portia. So not Anderson, Bennett. And big up to Crazy Glue from Hartford in Portland. And he says, blessed love Kishima with prosperity. I love the conversation today. Bridgette Bennett is absolutely conscious and positive. And this person says, good afternoon, Kish. Nice interview is coming from Yellow in Claremont. And Marta the Barber in Augusttown says, great interview, Kishima. She's doing an awesome job. Not true. She do a fantastic job, a phenomenal job.
Go without and in pursuit of riches.
And this person says, look here, from she get the general them for fly to the United States, it's a big deal. You know, Beanie and Bounty never have them visa for how long. And in comes Bridgette, the angel, to save it. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Keep the conversation going. Stick and stay. See you on the flip side of this break.
The Music Mart, the only complete music store in Jamaica, serving musicians for 75 years. The time by the Music Mart is